Welcome to you, Phil Marshall.
Love Simon. He's my summer partner in crime.
He's like
you guys have a little
husband,
sabbatical.
husband and wife team, you are.
Loved my
Let's
time.
Simon.
Yes. Hey, what a show from you two today.
Lots of messages about those two boys, and it'd be great if every interview was like that. But some players aren't as confident, or
There is that, but you'd love that to be cut up and sent around to say, if you just be yourself, and again, we do ask a lot of the players, as you say, but be yourself, the good things follow, don't they? It was awesome.
I think so. Hey, Fieldy, I was reading in the...
What have you got up on your screen there?
What's it called here? Moneyball, Herald Sun. Ralphie, Jay-Z and Glenn McFarlane, all good men, all good operators.
Very good.
It says here, amongst other things, about Bailey Smith. The Herald Sun understands a senior official at Geelong reached out to a colleague at the kennel to ease any fears the dogs had about a rumoured approach from the Cats. There was a report, I think this is you, the Cats were actively discussing Smith, but Geelong has denied it's in the midst of making a play for the star midfielder forward. Over to you.
Oh, they are all good men. Look, it would be hard for Geelong to do that if it's happened because they are interested.
I knew he wouldn't back down.
I told you he wouldn't back down.
They have had conversations about recruiting Bailey Smith. Now, what was in the word there? A play, an active play. Well, they are interested in bringing Smith down to GMHBA Stadium. That's a fact. They've been workshopping it behind the scenes for some time. Now, they have sounded out his management company as well. That's not everything, of course, because clubs do that about players all of the year and all of the time. But the Cats have discussed it. And these are the conversations ahead of time you have to have when you want to prize a marquee player out of a club, particularly one who will only be turning 23 in December. They are 18-month, 2-year pursuits, and they affect other recruiting moves, maybe in this case the Darcy Parish stuff. So could you bring in both? Most likely not. So Smith's 2-year deal expires at the end of next year. He signed it last August. You need to plan ahead. You need to get the ball rolling 2 years ahead of time. Does it mean it's going to happen in this trade period? Most likely not. But next year is the watch.
I told you he wouldn't walk. I told
Ralphie,
you
Jay-Z
he wouldn't walk. He wouldn't walk
Glenn
away
Mack.
from it.
That's back down the line and looks like a winner to me.
It's not about that at all.
Yes,
Mate,
it
look,
is.
maybe Geelong have done that, but I'm telling you, internally,
Fact, you said.
that they are interested and have
that's
been.
a fair
I'm telling
slap
you.
in the face back to those three blokes. All good operators, but the Fieldy's gone whack.
No, he hasn't. Hey, Finn McKay, just while we're on the subject of players who may or may not be moved, Finn McKay's an interesting one for the future as well at Collingwood. So another dominant VFL performance at the weekend, albeit unfortunately got a crack in his thumb. He's going to miss 3 or 4 weeks, so surgery for him, unfortunately. So this year doesn't look like it at all from a senior perspective, but he's had an amazing season. So he's picked 19 in the 2020 draft, 9 games in 2021, only 2 since. Now he'll be 22 in March, so he's got a serious decision to make. His contract expires, like Bailey Smith, coincidentally, at the end of next year. So are you going to stay and bide your time at Collingwood, and if so, for how long? Or are you going to go and pursue opportunities elsewhere? And these are the things that when you're so good and you've got such depth like Collingwood that some fall out of the boat.
Would he be waiting to see how much longer, say, Scott Pendlebury goes on? Because Scotty Pendlebury's not a quick inside mid, nor is Finn McKay. He might just be waiting to see whether or not he gets more of an opportunity when Pendlebury's not playing.
Yeah, so how long do you give it, though?
Yeah.
So, you're coming into his prime year. So he'll be 22 in March. So can you see light at the end of the tunnel? All players want to play, don't they?
Yeah.
Or do you then assess it and you go,
Would he have suitors?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyone would say, if you go to a Collingwood VFL game at the moment, they're not all just to watch Finn McKay, but they're there to watch all those who can't get into this unbelievably
that's what happens.
strong
They
23.
become a target for everyone.
The
don't they?
recruiters are there. Yeah, 100%. Hey, the tribunal, so as forecast, Rioli pled guilty, but both he and Port Adelaide had a nibble at the careless v intentional nature of it and also the low v medium impact of it. One or the other would equate to a 1-match ban. If he succeeded on both, he'd get the fine only. He didn't give evidence, Willie, but he gave a written statement, said he was being held and then he wanted to push Murphy in the chest to break free and used an open hand to do so. He did apologise for the high contact, but he did maintain that the force was not hard. So the AFL said this had to remain an intentional act, and they went further. They said Murphy Rioli had a half-clenched fist, and that the strike could have broken Murphy's jaw. So that was probably pushing it. But so was Port Council Ben Krupke's reply when he said we have a one-punch-can-kill campaign, but there are not the same campaigns for an open hand slap. So he said Murphy wasn't staging. Some players go down easily, though. They deliberated for more than an hour. In the end, they deemed the impact low, and that was why Willie Rioli will miss the showdown and the showdown only. And they cited the medical report there, so it was pretty clean. And they said there was little potential for injury.
Yeah, I'm accepting. I'm not that it matters what I do, but I accept that. Are you accepting of that?
Yeah, no, I'm accepting of that. We had Mason Redmond on the show just a short time ago, signed a new 5-year deal. The other player there that's caused a lot of speculation and discussion is Darcy Parish. What's the latest with him? Will he put pen to paper soon and stay at the Bombers, or do you think he's out the door?
No, I think he's staying, Tim. Still being worked through the finer details of this, but it's looked positive around him for some time, just like it was for Mason Redmond, his free agency teammate there. So, he's wanted to sit back. He's wanted to canvass the market. These are the big deals for these guys. They're in their mid-20s. They've got free agency eligibility. This is their time to strike if they can, whether it be at the club they're at, if they like what they see, or whether they've got interest elsewhere. So he's 25 years of age. It's going to be a long one. Hopefully for him, a lucrative one. He did sign that 2-year deal in mid-21. Darcy Parish went on to become an All-Australian, finished runner-up in the best and fairest as well. So I think it'd be something like a 5.
You get a 5?
I reckon it'd be a 5-year deal. I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like that, and relatively lucrative. And I think he will stay, which is a double dose of good news for Essendon.
Are Geelong no longer interested because apparently they were an interested party? You seem to have good inside intel down there that way?
I think so, yeah. And this is where the Bailey Smith stuff comes into it. So could they have gotten both? If they got Darcy Parish this year and really pursued him hard, could they then turn around in potentially 12 months' time and do the same for Bailey Smith? Possibly not. So no, I don't think that interest sort of went anything beyond the cursory advance. Taylor Walker and Mason Cox, got to mention. So 2 new deals during the week. 2 guys who were down and out, have admitted themselves that their careers were done. Taylor Walker at the start of this year saying this was definitely going to be his last year. Mason Cox had thoughts of retiring as well, going back to not too far. So 2-year contract for Mason Cox, which is amazing. And Tex Walker signs on for 1 more, and he's been on 1-year deals for a while, so might just continue for him. If you're going to potentially pinch the Coleman, what a resurrection that's been.
So 2 years for Meso when you're not sure if he's in the best team, but that doesn't mean much anyway. You can still trade him out I'm not saying they want to trade him out, but you could still come to the end of next year, for instance, if he's not able to get a regular spot, you can still do a deal.
But I thought rewind to this time last week when he survived the cut, if you like, when Ash Johnson got chopped, Billy Frampton got chopped, they want to play McStay in there. I thought that was a big vote of confidence that where they want him in the best 23 unless form decides otherwise. But he's definitely the preferred suitor given he spends that time in the ruck.
Off the temper text, all care, no responsibility, I saw Ben McKay with Rama and Dodoro.
Yeah, I think that's the landing spot for Ben McKay.
Do you?
Yeah.
Bombers.
Yeah, Bombers. And then this is where it gets more interesting, though, is what the compensation will spit out for a North Melbourne side who are going to formally apply for special assistance.
That's a good question.
And then we're going to get something up the pointy end potentially.
Why does everyone think he's definitely out the door?
Phone calls you make and people you speak to.
I'm just asking the question.
Oh, no, I'm just answering.
No need to get you back up.
So, Fieldy, did you say yesterday
don't have it back.
if they get compensation, the suggestion is that because North are so bad, they'll work it so he gets they get round 1 compensation for Mackay, which would be at pick number 3.
Yeah.
And that their boy Riley Sanders will also be allowed to find his way as a next generation academy, despite the fact that if someone bid on him inside 40, he shouldn't get him.
Yeah, well,
Do you think all those things will happen?
Yeah, highly likely.
For North?
Yep.
And clubs will go bunter.
Yeah, but if it's tailored in the sense that this is a special assistance package, and look, some things have aligned themselves at the same time in the sense of the young Tasmanian kid you mentioned and Mackay leaving, that at least contextually there is a blend of not just handing over here's your special assistance package.
Well, it kind of is.
Well, it is, but I mean, they need it, do they not?
No, 1 for sure. They don't know about 2.
Oh, you think 1 would be enough?
Well, all I'm saying is, no.
One of the free hits would be enough.
Legitimately, they can have 2 if they're there. If you're going to have to stretch the parameters, you can only stretch it once. You can't stretch it twice, can you?
Well, we've seen what they offered the Gold Coast Suns. These are all pre-draft, pre-listing opportunities.
I understand that.
He's not in the NGA yet, by the way. Sorry, he's not.
There's another point.
But that's still to be. That sits with an AFL committee at the moment. I think that's basically a formality, and then
you can do a double stretch. I just want to get Ben McKay. But Ben McKay, have they resigned them? Have North Melbourne? I know you do the phone calls. Have they resigned themselves to the fact that they're going to lose him?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they're working.
So they're planning live without him.
I think it would be a shock if he stayed. A big shock.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. But then, the compensation. Well, hey, look at Joe Danaher's move to Brisbane, right? That had hair all over it when his contract was renegotiated.
Had king prawn whiskers everywhere.
Did it ever? Yeah. And what compensation did that spit out?
Whiskers.
Top tier.
Righto. Jeez. Well done. Off you go. That was very nicely done.
And great insertion from you.
What's
too.
the difference between a lobster and a crayfish? Just ruminate on that, and maybe Jared will know.
Well,